Hi, I'm Lauren, and I am the founder of Animal Advocacy Careers. We are dedicated to helping attract and direct more compassionate and talented people towards working on reducing animal suffering. So where did this intervention come from? So initial research, which was conducted by Charity Entrepreneurship, found that an organization focused on bringing more skilled individuals might be one of the most impactful things a new organization could do. So this was interviews with leaders and experts in the field, and they wanted to know which area would actually be the most promising for a new organization to start. So as we all know, there are a load of really good organizations that are working on reducing animal suffering at scale. However, one of their biggest limiting factors is actually the fact that they don't have enough individuals helping them work on this. With the first research that we did at Animal Advocacy Careers, we asked organizations lots of questions, but all these organizations unanimously said that if their quality-adjusted pool of talent was doubled versus staying constant, that they would be able to double the amount of good they did versus if their funding was doubled for over the same period of time. There is also further research in the animal advocacy space which backs up the neglectedness of this issue. As you can see in the blue square there, that's the number of animals which are farmed and killed in 2017, I think it was, versus those which are killed in shelters, in labs, and in clothing. And on the right, this is the amount of money which is actually donated to these areas. The tiny blue square is actually the area which goes towards farmed animal advocacy organizations. This in itself is a really, it makes the argument very well, I think. I don't really think I could make it much better myself, but as you can see, this is the amount of resources that they actually have at their disposal versus the size of the problem. Even more than that, this tiny green square there, that is the area that is towards capacity building in these organizations. So again, there really isn't much money that's actually spent on the people who are making these interventions run. And it's an area that is really neglected. So this brings me on to the importance of the intervention. So firstly, it can severely limit organizations in multiple different ways. The first way is that organizations actually expand a lot slower than they possibly could do. This means that international organizations often aren't able to actually expand as quickly as they could do due to a lack of talented individuals, not due to the scale of the problem in these areas. Secondly, organizations often hire people who aren't actually strong enough to do the job as well as a different individual. This leads to two further inefficiencies. Firstly, it means that these organizations actually aren't able to grow as quickly as they possibly could do. And secondly, it also means that they have to spend more money and resources on training these individuals that maybe a better skilled candidate might be able to do. Thirdly, it also means that a lot of these organizations, these people aren't able to take on the positions, more senior positions, due to the lack of skills that they have in the first place. And lastly, it leads to a high turnover in these organizations, mostly due to the fact that they've hired the people who didn't have the right skills to do this job. It also impacts the movement on individual level, because there's little research that's actually done on analytically what is needed in the movement, and it leaves individuals really unsure of where they can actually make and contribute most to the industry. It brings me on to the aims of Animal Advocacy Careers. Our first aim is actually to be able to conduct more research into what skills are most needed in the movement. And this is so that we're able to give individuals and organizations the kind of information that they need to be able to direct themselves more effectively. The second aim is that we want to proactively look into making progress into solutions in this area. For example, maybe supporting these organizations to build skills and experiment in different ways to achieve them. We'll also try and learn from our mistakes and share best practices with organizations as we go. So what's next for us? As I said, we're going to be trying to experiment and make progress in this area by looking into different types of solutions on how we might be able to better direct people into these organizations. As you can see on the chart behind me, this is some research that hiring professionals have done onto looking at what's the most effective recruitment source to fill these skills gaps. There's a 22% conversion rate for internal hires versus a 6% rate for the next best use, which is referred. However, when we did our initial research, we found that most organizations actually hire for their senior positions externally. So again, this is another inefficiency that we're hoping to tackle. Secondly, there's also a very high turnover which exists in a lot of these animal organizations, and it can cost organizations up to 6 to 9 months of an annual salary for businesses, and up to 200% for a more senior hire. So again, it's costing them a lot of money financially, but it also costs them in the fact that they're losing industry knowledge, and also the morale of the team, the productivity, and the time it would actually take to recruit these people. So why us? Why Animal Advocacy Careers? There are some organisations which are doing some really great work in internal capacity building and training, and we'd really love to learn from them and share their best practices, but it's still largely neglected. The movement as a whole really lacks shared knowledge on this subject, and research into successful mechanisms and best practices in regard to training and skills building. The talent gap is also very large, it's diverse, and I really think it would benefit from a more direct and proactive approach to improving it. So the success of this can be seen in other movements that have support in this way. And lastly, it's more efficient for the movement as a whole to test, trial, and scale things based on best practice, rather than these individuals trying to tackle this on their own. So we are committed to helping the animal advocacy movement improve and create a foundation of systematic solutions which are evidence-based and continuously updated. So in summary, this is a highly neglected cause with the potential to be a multiplier on the movement's effectiveness, and also help animal advocacy as a career become a more attractive prospect to many ambitious altruists. Thanks.